العالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت وباركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. أما بعد, inshallah, we continue translating the book How to Elongate Your Productive Lifespan. Inshallah, we started last week with the types of deeds that will maximize the benefit of your lifetime. Basically, you will be able to achieve a lot of good deeds in a shorter time span, where if your life is compared to someone else who lived the same number of years, then your life is much more fruitful and you will be much more achieving good deeds than that other person who lived the same lifespan as yours. The first point, or the first section, was about as-salah, and he mentioned the salah in the haramain, that salah in Mecca is worth a lot more than other places. Salah in Medina is worth a lot more than other places. So therefore we should try to visit that land often and make salah in there. As you know, in Mecca the reward is 100,000, and in Medina it's 1,000. Yani the salah in Mecca is 100,000 more than the salah you pray elsewhere, and the salah in Medina is 1,000 more than you pray elsewhere. And if you remember, he made some calculation about the daily prayers, the daily attached sunnahs that you pray every day, and he totaled it, and he said that if you are praying 12 rak'at on a daily basis, 2 before Fajr, 4 before Dhuhr, 2 after Dhuhr, 2 after Maghrib, and 2 after Isha. If you pray those 12 rak'at on a daily basis, then in 1 year, you would have prayed 4,320 rak'ah of nawafil, yani voluntary salah. As for 2 rak'at in the haram in Mecca, it is equal 200,000. And then he made a calculation, right? He said if you wanted to get the reward of 200,000 rak'ah of sunan, then he did the division, and you need 46 years and 3 months, right, to reach the reward of 200,000, right? So you will, 200,000 salah, yani he is counting each rak'ah is 100,000, right? So 2 rak'at he's considering 200,000, right? So this is how he did it. So that is the case. And then he said if you pray 10 rak'at in the haram in Mecca, then it's you will get the reward of 1 million. Every rak'ah is 100,000. 10 rak'at, so that's 1 million, right? So he said we should, instead of spending our time, vacation time, going to touristic places, we should visit Mecca and Medina often, and then pray more in there. And the third place was Jerusalem, or Bayt al-Maqdis. Who remembers the reward for praying there? 500, that's the one narration, but it's a weak narration, we said. What is the authentic one? 1,000, that's in Medina. 250. Allah knows best. Inshallah we'll get the hadith for that. 250, right? So the salah you pray in Bayt al-Maqdis in Jerusalem, Masjid al-Aqsa, is worth 250 more than. So if you pray 2 rak'at here and 2 rak'at there, the 2 rak'at there is 250 more than the 2 you pray here. right? طيب. Also he commented on those who go to Mecca and Medina and then they spend too much time shopping. Instead of praying more, they spend too much time shopping. They should know that they are missing a lot. If you convert that into time, right, and rewards, hasanat that are missed, then they will be losing a lot by these, shopping. Not to say that don't shop, but then don't take all the time or spend all the time shopping. طيب. The second point he mentions is المحافظة على صلاة الجماعة في المسجد. To continuously pray جماعة, congregational prayer in the masjid, to preserve, to guard this quality that you pray in the masjid all the time. He starts by saying most of the people know that excellence of know the excellence of Salat al-Jama'ah, and that it excels the salah of the one who prays by himself. It excels over that by 25 or 27 salah. Most of us know, and many of these ahadith that will be mentioned throughout the book, many of them we know about them. But then the way he presented the idea makes it more, makes you look at the issue in a different, or from a different aspect, or from a different view. So Salat al-Jama'ah is worth 25 or 27 more than the Salah when you pray by yourself. But then the one who will be diligent and careful to make his lifespan longer, more blessed, then he will find for this topic a great importance for this topic, as it will come, in the other sections of the book. Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu narrated that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Salatun ma'al imam afdalu min 25 salatin yusalliha wahdahu." This is in Sahih Muslim. And in a narration by Ibn Umar that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Salatul jama'ah afdalu min salatil fadh bi 27 daraja." This is in Bukhari and also in Muslim. The first hadith from Abi Huraira, it says the prayer with the imam is better 25 times than the one prayer you pray by yourself. And the second one by Ibn Umar, it says that the congregational prayer is more excellent than the prayer of the one man. It is more, or it excels over it by 27 degrees. 27 degrees. 25 or 27. Right? Some narrations says 25, some narrations they say 27. So basically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave 25, then he increased it more and gave it 27. Right? So this is the case. Now the Sheikh said, if two people died at the same age, with the same age, one of them is used to praying al-farida, one is used to praying the compulsory prayers at home by himself all of his life, and the other one he prays the compulsory prayers in the masjid, then the total of the reward of the salah of the second man is much more than the reward of that peer, that same person who died with the same age. He is more than him by 25 or 27 times. Now he says, isn't the second man as if he lived a time period that is longer than the first one by 25 or 27 times? 25 or 27 times. He said, in other words, what the individual will attain of the reward of the compulsory prayer within 25 or 27 years, you can attain that, you can earn it in 1 year. Right? So, two people died at the same age. One of them prays in the masjid, the other one prays at home. So, it's as if they are doing the same work, the same actions, basically the salah itself. Just one of them takes the extra step of going to the masjid, So his life is much more worthy, yani 27 times more than his peer, than his other brother who died at the same age. So he said you should reflect and ponder over this issue. He said that many people, if they are giving extra, in terms of his salary, he was given extra money, but with the condition that he has to move from the city where he lives to another city, then you will find this person choosing to be a foreigner, to travel and to be away from his family just for that extra amount of dollars in his salary. So he said, shouldn't we stay away, or shouldn't we choose to stay away from home for a few minutes, so that you will pray the farida, you will pray the compulsory prayer in the house of Allah. Then you will go home, you will go saliman ghaniman. You will go home safe and sound, and you will go home having earned a lot by going out to pray in the masjid. He said that he knows a pious young man. The Sheikh, he says he knows this young man. If he missed Salat al-Jama'ah, he does not rest. He continues to move around with his car from one masjid to another. Maybe he will catch Salat al-Jama'ah so that he can pray with them. Even if this costed him, a travel that he will travel for far distances. If he did not achieve what he wants, he couldn't find out, all the Jama'ah are missed, then he will insist upon his family that they will pray with him. Even if they already prayed that Salah, he will insist that they will, voluntarily join him in Salah, so he will get Salat al-Jama'ah. He goes on to say that the Muslim woman should not think that she is deprived of this multiplied reward. For praying at home, for the Muslim woman, praying at home is more rewarding, is better for her than praying in the masjid. Even if that masjid is the Masjid al-Nabawi, the prophetic masjid, in which the salah will be multiplied up to 1,000 salah compared to the other masajid, except al-Masjid al-Haram, of course. This is because of what is narrated from Humayd, the wife of Abi Humayd al-Sa'idi radiyallahu anhu, أنها جاءت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, that she came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم and she said, يا رسول الله إني أحب الصلاة معك. O Rasulullah, I love to pray with you. So he said عليه الصلاة والسلام, قد علمت أنك تحبين الصلاة معي. I surely know that you love to pray with me. وصلاتك في بيتك خير لك من صلاتك في حجرتك. وصلاتك في حجرتك خير لك من صلاتك في دارك. وصلاتك في دارك خير لك من صلاتك في مسجد قومك. وصلاتك في مسجد قومك خير لك من صلاتك في مسجدي. He said عليه الصلاة والسلام to her that he knows she likes to pray with him in his masjid. Of course, this incident happened in Medina. But then he told her, your prayer in your private chamber is better for you than to pray in your room. And your prayer in your room is better than your prayer in your home. And your prayer in your home is better for you than to pray in the masjid of your tribe or your people. And your prayer in the masjid of your people, the people in her vicinity, that is better for you than to pray in my masjid. Right? So you have the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then the local masjid, then the home in general, then her room in that home, and then she has even a more special place, another private place for her. So to pray in the most private location is better for her in terms of reward. So the hadith goes on to say that she ordered فأمرت فبني لها مسجد في أقصى شيء من بيتها وأظلمه فكانت تصلي فيه حتى لقيت الله عز وجل. She ordered that a place will be built for her as a masjid, will be made for her as a masjid in her home. This is one of the sunnahs that are forgotten. يعني Sheikh Khalid al-Ambari has a small booklet on that, to have a place in the home where it is made specifically for salah as a masjid. يعني. So she ordered that she will have a place as a masjid. It's this is in the farthest, the location of it is in the farthest place of her home, and the darkest too, farthest and darkest. So she used to pray in it until she passed away, until she met Allah Azza wa Jal, until she died, that is. This is a hadith in the Musnad of Al-Imam Ahmad, and it is in other books also, authenticated by Sheikh Al-Albani rahimahullah. So he says, reflect, my brother who's reading this book, noble brother who's reading this book, reflect upon this great reward, extensive reward that was given to the Muslim woman if she prays at home. All of that as a means for protecting her and guarding her from mingling with men, even if that prayer was in Al-Masjid Al-Nabawi Al-Sharif. So if you reflect, if the Muslim woman, the true Muslim woman, would reflect and ponder with her own self, looking into this hadith, and if she would seek from it this great wisdom that it has, then she would know that for her to stay at home is a means of seeking the pleasure for her Lord, and also it will provide safety and security for her society, and also it will make the productive lifespan, her productive lifespan, it will make it longer. It will make it longer. So this is the second point that he mentions, Salat al-Jama'ah in the masjid. It will add to your salah 27 times the reward. So it's as if you lived 27 more than those who are doing the same thing, but then they do not pray in the masjid. The third point that he mentions is ada'un nafilati fil bayt, to pray the voluntary prayers at home. The Sheikh said that, would you believe, my brother who's reading this book, that the one who prays the voluntary prayers, the one who prays the nawafil at home, his reward will be multiplied 25 times more than the one who prays the voluntary prayers in the masjid in front of the people, even if that was in the Haramain. Even if that was in the Haramain. Right? So this point is important. If you go to Mecca, right, pray more voluntary prayers at home, in your room, in the hotel. More voluntary prayers. Yes, you can pray voluntary prayers in the masjid to get the millions of rewards. But then if you pray in your private room where no one is seeing you, the reward is 25 times more for the voluntary prayers. Right? طيب. So he said, and this is the opposite to the faridah. This is the opposite to the obligatory prayers. So because Suhaib al-Rumi radiyallahu anh narrated that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, صلاة الرجل تطوعا حيث لا يراه الناس تعدل صلاته على أعين الناس 25. The prayer of a man voluntary prayer of a man, when no one of the people sees him, equals the salah that he prays in front of the people equals 25 times more than the salah that he does in front of the people. So the salah, the voluntary salah that you pray when people do not see you, that salah has 25 times more reward than the same salah if you pray it in front of the people, while the people see you. This hadith is in different places, but the hadith is in Sahih al-Jami' al-Saghir, hadith 3821. Al-Munawi, explaining this in his book Fayd al-Qadir, he said that this reward 25 times more for the voluntary prayers if you pray it at home. He said this is because nafil, because voluntary prayers was legislated to seek nearness to Allah sincerely for His sake. So the more this is done in a secret way, a secretive way, yani hidden from the eyes of the people, then we'll be farther away from showing off and farther away from people looking at you. As for the farida, the fara'id, the compulsory prayers, then they are legislated لإشادة الدين وإظهار شعائره. The compulsory prayers were legislated to raise up the banner of the religion and to make the symbols of the religion manifest and clear, crystal clear. Right? So the farida should be done in front of everybody. But then the nawafil, the voluntary prayers, the more they are done in secrecy when people do not see, then this is more sincerity and therefore farther away from showing off, and therefore more reward. More will come on this point, inshallah. The other hadith also is an authentic hadith. It says that فضل صلاة الرجل في بيته على صلاته حيث يراه الناس كفضل الفريضة على التطوع. That the excellence of the prayer of the man in his home over his salah when people see him is like the excellence of the farida, the excellence of the compulsory prayer over the voluntary prayer. Yani we know that salah, we have salah and other than salah. We have salah and zakah and hajj and siyam. If you look into the fact that something is a must and something is voluntary, the reward of the compulsory thing far outweighs the reward of the voluntary. So Salat al-Fard, the reward of it is much greater than Salat al-Tatawwu', right? Voluntary prayers. The fasting that is a must, like the one in Ramadan, the reward of it far outweighs the reward of the voluntary fast. And so on and so forth. Zakah is like that too. Zakah, the fard, the reward of it is far greater than the voluntary charity that you give. The hajj that is compulsory, the first time hajj, the reward of it is far greater than the hajj that you do tatawwu'. And you go second and third time and fourth time and fifth. The fard is much more. This hadith is saying that the salah that is voluntary prayer, the excellence of it when you pray it at home is like the excellence of the compulsory prayer over the voluntary prayer. And this is something, mashallah. This hadith is in Sahih al-Jami'. It's in Sahih al-Targhib, the hadith 441, hadith number 441, Sahih al-Targhib wal-Tarhib by Sheikh al-Albani alayhi rahmatullah. So the Sheikh here commented on this hadith. He said maybe this issue also is relative. The farida, the reward of the farida over the reward of the nafila, the voluntary. Maybe this is relative. So the difference in excellence between praying at home and praying in the masjid regarding the voluntary prayers will be according to the different locations, according to the different countries, and Allah knows best. That is because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was directing his speech to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum in Medina, while knowing that salah in his masjid is worth 1,000 salah. Right? So this is the case even in Medina. The voluntary salah at home is better than praying it in the masjid. And the excellence of it is like the excellence of the farida over the nafila. Now he says that this means that the total of the good deeds, or the total of the hasanat, that the one who prays the voluntary prayers in the masjid within 25 years, you can earn this in 1 year if you pray them at home or in a place where no one can see you. Right? So someone is praying the nawafil, he is praying them in the masjid. 25 years he is praying in the masjid, the voluntary prayers. If you pray them at home, you can get the same reward in 1 year. In 1 year, you can get what someone else gets in 25 years. Right? 1 year you get the reward the same that that person is getting in 25 years. Then he says, would you be satisfied that you miss all of this great reward? He says, I don't think so. So be diligent, my Muslim brother, that you will have a share of voluntary prayer where people do not see you. For that is more rewarding for you. And this also is farther from showing off. Farther from showing off. Then he goes on to say, you should know, my noble brother, that the more the deed will be sincere, the more sincerity in the action, then the more reward or the far greater the reward would be from Allah. He mentions the hadith of Abi Sa'id radiallahu anhu that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, صلاة الرجل في جماعة تزيد على صلاته وحده 25 درجة فإذا صلاها بأرض فلاة أو بأرض فلاة فأتم وضوءها وركوعها وسجودها بلغت صلاته 50 درجة. This is in the Sunan of Abi Dawood, and it is authenticated by Sheikh Al-Albani, hadith 3824 in Sahih Al-Jami'. Now this hadith says that the prayer of the man in congregation will excel, or it excels his salah by himself 25 degrees. Then it goes on. So if he prays it in a desert land and he perfected its wudu, its ruku', its sujood, then it will reach, his salah will reach 50 degrees. Salatul Jama'ah in the masjid, 25 degrees. If he prays in a desert land by himself and he perfects the wudu and he perfects the salah, ruku' and sujood and everything, his reward reaches 50. Yani double the reward. He said, why is this reward for the one who does that? This is because he did not pray out of fear of hay'ah. You know, in Arabia they have hay'at al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa nahy 'anil munkar. They have this body of people. It's a government organization, and basically they check people out. And you have to go to the masjid. If they pass by, if they find the store open, they will give you a hard time. You have to close and go and pray, right? So he's saying this man who prayed in the desert land, he's not afraid of the hay'ah. He's not afraid of these basically police that will go around and check people out if they don't pray. And no one reminded him of the salah, not even the mu'adhin. You know, when you are living in a city with people, even if you forget, you hear Allahu Akbar. يعني طبعا this is in a Muslim lands, right? So you hear the mu'adhin, then you get reminded of the salah. This person is in a desert land by himself. Nobody reminded him of the salah. He doesn't have a friend or a relative that he will show off in front of him يعني that he's praying. But then what leads him to pray is fearing Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala and feeling that Allah is watching him, and he is in a desert land. There are no humans in there. This fear of Allah led him to establish the salah whose time has come in, and this is why he got this reward that is multiplied. So you should train yourself to ikhlas. عود نفسك على الإخلاص. Train yourself to be sincere by making for your home a share of the voluntary prayers, for in this there will be for you a great reward. Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu narrated that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, صلوا أيها الناس في بيوتكم فإن أفضل صلاة المرء في بيته إلا المكتوبة. Pray, O people, in your homes, for surely the best of the prayer of the person, of the individual, is the one that is done in his home, except for the compulsory salah. The compulsory salah, it is better to be done in the masjid, but then after that it is recommended to do the salah, the voluntary salah at home. This hadith is in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, and also it is in Sahih al-Bukhari and in Sahih Muslim. This is part of the famous hadith of At-Tarawih, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came out and prayed the Qiyam of Ramadan. So some people saw him and then they joined him. The next day or the next night, more people heard, so they came. The third night, even much more heard, and they came and prayed with him. The fourth night, he didn't show up, alayhi salatu wassalam. So they started throwing small stones at his door, thinking that he was asleep. So he came out and he told them that he was aware that they were around, that they came to pray. But then he said that he feared that it will be made compulsory for them, that if they pray night prayers every night in Ramadan, night prayers in Ramadan is the same night prayer in the other nights of the year. It's just that in Ramadan it's more special and it has more reward, and it is legislated to be done in congregation, but then in the masajid too. But then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he feared that it will be made compulsory, so he told them, pray at home, for the best of the prayer of the individual is the one that he prays at home, except for the faridah. This is part of that hadith, part of the hadith regarding at-tarawih. The next point, which I don't think we have time to finish it. So what I will do is we will stop here and see if there are some questions. If there are.
The people who are praying here who don't hear adhan, they get the same what I when they are praying the desert.
The one who pray here.
In this part of the land.
Okay.
They don't hear adhan.
Yes.
So they're praying by themselves. They're not being reminded by muazzin.
Well, inshallah, we hope that they will have some reward. But they can be told, why did you choose to stay in a place where there is no adhan? Right? But then, the point that he emphasized is sincerity. Why is that man getting the reward 50, double? If you pray in congregation in the masjid, 25. This one is getting 50, although he's praying by himself in a desert land. So then he said that it is the sincerity. And if you train yourself to sincerity, then you will get more reward. And this is, we say the same about those who come in the masjid. Originally it should be 27 times, but then some people might get 50 or even more than that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala multiplies the reward as He wants. His treasures are full, and if He gives whatever He gives, they will never be, they will never finish. The treasures, they will never finish. So then the point is the sincerity. A point that Al-Imam Ibn Al-Qayyim, he mentions that two people will be praying in the same line, and the salah between, the reward between them is like between the heavens and the earth. Right? But they are doing the same thing and they are standing in the same line. But the sincerity of the person, which can be, which has signs basically, then it will make the reward even be more multiplied in reward. And the hadith was mentioned about the good deed is multiplied by 10 up to 700, and even more than that. Allah multiplies more for people according to how much they deserve. Allah knows best. Yes. If you have two persons at work. Yes. The reward is much more, of course, than praying by yourself. Alhamdulillah. Inna al-hasanat yudhibna as-sayyi'at. Good deeds wash away and erase the evil ones. Right? So, that's a good thing. That the people should be emphasizing and should be careful to ask for a spot for them to pray. And in this way, other Muslims who could be weak and they will not be coming up front and asking, or maybe even they don't pray because they are shy, they don't want to pray in front of others, by someone asking for a private room and then giving them that room, and then they start praying the faridah together, much more rewards for those who initiate things like that, because they will help others. This is one of the means of da'wah. They will help the others to establish the prayers in congregation.
But one should not be shy, because the non-Muslim girls are reminding you to go to make your prayer, and attend your private prayer. I work at one company and they told me, I know I have to go, but I didn't leave for that day, and they were reminding me, I'm non-Muslim, I'll be waiting to myself. So Muslim here shouldn't be afraid to pray them salah even though you to the wrong place. I think that those people and you are offended.
What does this mean?
This one and this one? Okay. First of all, no need to be shy. Shy of what? You need to be calling others to this, let alone being shy of following it. Right? You need to call them to be like you, to become Muslim, because that's the only way to salvation. So if you are in a in an environment that is tolerant as this environment, then there is more reason for you not to be shy and to be even more, open and upfront about this. So the second part, it says وَإِذَا نَعَسَ أَحَدُكُمْ فِي الصَّلَاةِ فَلْيَنَمْ حَتَّى يَعْلَمَ مَا يَقْرَأُ. This is an authentic hadith. It says if one of you gets dizzy in salah, then let him sleep so that he will know what he is reciting. This is referring to night prayers, right? This is referring to night prayers. It's not talking about Salat al-Dhuhr or Salat al-Asr. You feel dizzy, just go to sleep, play, right? Forget about it. It's referring to Qiyamul Layl, okay, night prayers. So you are praying at night. If you are too sleepy, stop and go to sleep, because when you are reciting, you need to know what you are reciting. So if you are so sleepy, you're just saying whatever, mumbling those words, and then there is no point in continuing to pray like this. Go to sleep, right? And this is the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Once he saw one of the mothers of the believers, she had like a rope hanging from the wall. So he asked, what is this? Told him if she gets tired or dizzy, she holds on to that rope. So he said, untie it. حُلُّوهُ لِيُصَلِّ أَحَدَكُمْ نَشَاطًا. One of you should pray while he's active. So if you get dizzy, then you go to sleep. So this is the meaning of this hadith, right? طيب. This is the other one too? Or this is the one? Okay, inshallah. تفضل ياسين. Can we? Yes, inshallah. تفضل. Voluntary prayer in Mecca is 100,000. If you pray in the hotel, so you're losing the 100,000 reward. If you pray in the hotel, you're losing the 100,000. Okay. First of all, the 100,000 is not only for the voluntary. It's a voluntary and for the farida too. Even the 5 compulsory prayers is 100,000 more than the farida you pray elsewhere. And then the voluntary prayers, they are also like that, 100,000 more than what you pray in other places. So this is what you need to do when you go to Mecca and Medina. We mentioned this last week. You try your best to pray in the masjid, the farida, and then pray more voluntary prayers in the masjid, so you get those multiplied rewards. طيب. More than this, another step. When you are in Mecca, the prayer in your home, this hadith that Rasulullah ﷺ mentioned is in Medina, when he said that your prayer at home is better 25 times than the masjid. This is in Medina. He was in Medina alayhi salatu wasalam. So when you are in Mecca and in Medina, even pray in your room. Yani you pray in the masjid to get the 100,000 and to get the 1,000 more reward, and pray also in your room or in a place where people don't see you, right? And then you will get 25 times more than praying in the masjid. And this issue is relative, right? So here, the masajid here, yani you pray the farida in them, but the nafila, the voluntary prayer, you should pray at home, right? Naam. In Mecca you pray in the masjid, the voluntary, to get the reward, the multiplied reward, and you pray at home also, so you get even more and more. Yes, yes. So that is the case. Allah knows best. Faddal. If you are a traveler, is it part of the sunnah to pray the nawafil? That was a question from last week. Who will answer that? The sunnah is to leave the nawafil that are attached to dhuhr, maghrib and isha. So when you are a traveler, you don't pray the 4 before dhuhr, 2 after dhuhr, 2 after maghrib and 2 after isha. Those you don't pray them when you are a traveler. You only pray the sunnah of fajr, whether you are a traveler or a resident. Rasulullah ﷺ never left it. The sunnah of fajr, the 2 rak'at before fajr, and salatul witr, which is 1 up to 11 or 13, according to what most of the time Rasulullah ﷺ used to pray. You can pray less than that. The least is 1. The best is to pray 11 or 13 like Rasulullah ﷺ prayed. You can pray even more than that if you wish. So those you don't leave, whether you are a traveler or you are a resident, you always pray them, right? So that is the case. Other than that, you can pray. You can pray open voluntary prayers, salat al-duha, istikhara, all of that, salat, the sunnah of wudu, all of that is okay. There is no restriction on that. Now, of course, we are saying this. I want to remind of something. Why is it that people pray in the masjid sometimes? For instance, the sunnah after isha and the witr. Many people pray in the masjid. Why do they pray in the masjid? It's better to pray at home. But then if you are between not praying at all, when you get home you're too tired, you don't want to go and make wudu, and right, you just dragging yourself to bed. So in this case, better pray in the masjid and catch that salah, because you don't want to leave it later on and then you miss it. And this is the advice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also to some of the Sahaba, to pray witr before going to sleep. Now, it doesn't say masjid or not the masjid, but we know that prayer in the last third of the night is much more rewarding. But he advised them to pray before going to sleep. Why? Because if you go to sleep and you cannot guarantee you will wake up, you might miss it. So better to pray before going to sleep. So this is the case. Right? So we do not we know the excellence of praying at home, that it is 25 times, and at least if you want to secure the sunnah after isha or the witr, so you don't miss it. But then if you get a chance to pray at home, then you pray, right? So do not have your home like a graveyard, right? The graveyard, the people don't pray in there. So at home you pray some prayers there, voluntary prayers, so that you will have some barakah at home also. Yes, تفضل. Regarding the fard salah, praying 27 times reward more than praying at home. Yes. It seems from this hadith that we are allowed to pray home. But there is a hadith that says that he will burn those who pray at home and leave the congregational prayer. Were it not for the kids and the ladies, okay. So it boils down to the question, is Salat al-Jama'ah obligatory or is it recommended? This is your question, right? So, is it a must to pray in congregation in the masjid or not? Allah knows best. There is a discussion between the scholars on this issue, and many of them are of the position that it is obligatory to pray in the masjid, and many of them also are of the position that it is only recommended. This hadith says that the one who prays in the masjid will get 27 times more the reward. So it means that the salah in the masjid is 27 times the reward. The salah that you pray by yourself is valid, because there are some scholars who went to even more than that. That salah is invalid if you pray by yourself. If you pray by yourself, the salah is invalid according to them. Yani praying in congregation is like a condition for the validity of the salah. So even if you miss the salah, you need to find someone to pray with you, otherwise salah is gone. Ibn Hazm and others, right? So this is the case, and it shows how much important the salah in the jama'ah is. So anyhow, this hadith shows that if you pray by yourself, then the salah is one, so it's acceptable. But then in the masjid it's 27 times more. In order to find whether the salat al-jama'ah is compulsory or not, we need to go through a discussion, right? And basically, I'm not going to tell you this or that, but then according to the shuyukh like Sheikh al-Albani, like Sheikh bin Baz, like Sheikh Uthaymeen, rahimahumullah, all of them are of the position that the salah in the masjid is obligatory. However, this is for someone who hears the adhan, right? He is not too far. He is in a place where, from the masjid, that he can hear the adhan if it was called, if the adhan was called by the natural voice, not by mics and speakers, right? So if we suppose, of course we are in this land, we know there is no adhan that is heard, but we say we suppose then, if someone will get out from this masjid here, and he will go up, and we have someone with a good and strong voice, he will call the adhan, right? Those in the vicinity, those who are able to hear, they must come. And we're talking about the males, of course, not the females. So those who hear it, they must come. Those who don't hear it, they don't have to come. Those who do not hear it, they do not have to come. And Allah knows best. And more than that, there is more discussion. And it's not like one position and that's it. It is not so. Some issues are like that. They are presented in a way that this or that. It's not so. There is a big discussion on that. Right? تفضل إن شاء الله. There is the hadith that says, the brother mentioned, there is no salah for the neighbor of the masjid except in the masjid. This hadith has some weakness in it. فيه ضعف. But still many scholars they use that hadith. But then it has some weakness in it. But then there are other narrations that show that congregation can be made at home and it will be fine, right? So we'll leave that for another discussion, inshallah. I remember we went through this when we translated the book of As-Salah by Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, and he chose that salah in congregation is a must. And he mentioned different ways one of the things that he mentioned, other than the hadith that you mentioned about burning the homes, is the Salat al-Khawf, the Salah of fear, where Muslims are at war and then they pray the Salah of fear. They pray still in congregation, although they are afraid and they are facing the enemies. Still they do their utmost best to pray together, right? So this is another proof that it is a must. But there are other ahadith that may be understood that the salah in congregation, if it was done other than the masjid, it will be fine too. And some of them are in the sahih, right? So we're talking about salat al-jama'ah in the masjid and salat al-jama'ah elsewhere, right? That the salat al-jama'ah elsewhere, if it was done not in the masjid but it was done in jama'ah, then it is also fine. And those who pray in jama'ah in other than the masjid, then they are not sinful by not going to the masjid. So inshallah we'll have that on another occasion. Inshallah we'll go through the proofs of that, right? Inshallah. There is a book that discusses certain issues of ijtihad in terms of salah and zakah and those things. The author is a sheikh from Arabia, Dr. Muhammad Umar Bazmul. Muhammad Umar Bazmul. Bazmul, this is the older Bazmul, not the younger one, right? So we have his book here, so maybe on another occasion we can go through what he presents, inshallah. And basically the conclusion of what he says is that if the Salat al-Jama'ah was done as congregation outside of the masjid, then it is fine. And those who prayed in congregation, not in the masjid, they are not sinful, right? But then of course Salat in the masjid, the reward of it cannot be beaten, yeah, right? That's why many people think, okay, pray Jama'ah 27, that the 27 is for those who pray in the masjid. Allah knows best, right? The 27 times is not for any congregational prayer. It's the congregational prayer that is done in the masjid. That's what you get 27 times for, right? Allah knows best. طيب سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.